Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? I'm hoping that you may be able to write in the comments, if possible. And can you see the presentation okay? All right, so you're here this morning to find out a bit more about your psychology A-level. Hopefully, as we go through, you'll have a better understanding of what the course entails, as well as your summer prep work and the expectations that brings in September as well. If you do have any questions throughout the presentation and the sort of the live, then please you can either speak or put a comment in the box, and I will do my best to answer as quickly as I can. So, welcome to psychology. All right, so you might be thinking, 2 years, what are we going to be doing? There's quite a lot of content, all right, and that is something that students feedback to us a lot. You know, the psychology A-level, it's got a lot of volume, all right. There's a lot to learn, a lot of studies, a lot of theories, pieces of research, as well as evaluation points. So as you can see on the screen, what I've done is I've split it into the 3 papers that we sit, all right. So there are 3 papers which are 2 hours long each, which will be sat at the end of year 13. There's no coursework element to psychology A-level. So in paper 1, we have social influence, which is to do with why people conform, why people obey, how people resist conformity and obedience, and also how we bring about change, which, you know, when you think about the past year, has been particularly relevant. So we'll be looking at the theories and research behind that. In memory, we look at how our memory works, how the information flows through memory, our short-term memory, our long-term memory, how we can improve memory with use of techniques like the cognitive interview. And we'll look at what happens when people are eyewitnesses to, for example, a crime. You know, what is it they need to remember? How can we tease that information from them so that we get the best amount of information as well? Then we have attachment, which is all about how babies develop and build those attachments, which then affect their later life relationships as well. So there's, you know, that's quite a hefty unit with quite a few theories. And we also look at what happens when people don't attach particularly well and how that will affect their later behaviour as well. So very interesting one, but that's quite a sort of long-term scope unit as well. Psychopathology is a firm favourite with our students. So this is where we look at phobias and the behavioural reasons as to why people have a phobia or not. We look at treatments of phobias. We also look at OCD and the biological explanations and treatments behind that. And we look at depression as well. And there we focus on the cognitive explanations and treatments. So moving on to paper 2, we look at approaches, and this year we are actually going to start with approaches because that will give you the grounding of this. You know, approaches is, you know, looking at a behaviour from different perspectives in psychology, and throughout the units you'll see that there's a lot of synoptic knowledge going on there. So that will come up time and time again. So we will be starting with that to give you that grounding. We also look at biopsychology, so any biologists, there's a lot of crossover here, and some of your summer work is geared towards that unit as well. So we look at things like synaptic transmission, the nervous system, release of hormones, but importantly, because we are psychology, we look at what that means in terms of the behavioural outcome. All right, so we focus more on the behaviour side as well as the processes that are going on biologically and in the physical body, and how that affects the behaviour of the person, particularly in relation to their brain. Lots of very interesting experiments that we look at there. Then we have research methods. Now you might be thinking, why have the other 2 papers got 4 topics each and this one only has 3? It's because research methods is double weighted. So what this means is that 50% of paper 2 is research methods. All right, so and research methods can also come up in any of the other papers. So what they tend to say is overall around 25 to 30% of your overall grade could be research methods. So we do a lot of practice of research methods questions to make sure you are fully prepared for that, because that really can make the difference for some people. Then we have our paper 3 options where we look at issues and debates, and you may have heard of some of these, like the nature-nurture debate, the holism-reductionism debate, is psychology a science? And those of you who are really forward thinking and perhaps looking at potential university courses may see that actually, you know, psychology sometimes comes under a science and sometimes it doesn't. And that's because of the debate that there is, because of the nature of what we look at in psychology. Not everything is objective, observable and measurable, and that makes it hard to define it as a pure science in the same way that biology and chemistry are, because we look at abstract concepts and, you know, you can't see the mind. We have to make inferences about what we find, and we have to, it's not guesswork, but it's kind of, we can't be 100% sure, because we can't open the brain up and see memory as much as we would like to. We can see the hippocampus, which is where we think memory is stored, but we can't actually see memory or see a thought, and that's what makes us different from the other sciences. We then have our 3 option topics in paper 3, and we do these right at the end of year 13. So we do, at this school, we do forensic psychology, which, you know, a lot of our students go on to do criminology style courses, and so that really satisfies that element there. Really interesting, all about offending behaviour, profiling an offender, which I'm sure, you know, a lot of the TV series at the moment are geared towards that sort of component, and how we deal with offenders as well. So sometimes prison isn't always the answer, and what could be a better option, and looking at that. We look at schizophrenia as well, so this tends to satisfy students who want to go on to do clinical psychology, so it's more of a, you know, looking at a disorder there, and also schizophrenia is a really interesting one because people have a lot of misconceptions about it, so it's really good to actually understand exactly what schizophrenia is. So that's a really interesting unit, and we look at the explanations behind schizophrenia and also how we can treat and manage schizophrenia. And then the other option that we do is gender, and this is looking at what gender is, how gender develops. So when we're children and we're adding to our sort of knowledge of information and our, what we call our schemas, we're constantly assimilating information, and we start to understand, okay, so I'm a girl, I do this, or I'm a boy, so I need to behave like this. And it's looking at the theories behind how gender develops. And it's really interesting. So we look at that, that's where the approaches come in a bit there, because we look at it from a cognitive point of view, and we look at the biological point of view and the social learning point of view. So it's quite a nice recap to have there. We also, in this unit, look at gender dysphoria, so people who have a gender and their biological sex that they were assigned at birth, and we look at reasons why that happens too. So, you know, it's quite a hefty course, all right? You're never going to be bored. There are some units that you are going to prefer over others. That's going to happen. But I think, you know, it's a really broad A level. It gives you a really good experience of psychology in it later on. You'd be very well prepared for any further study. So as I said earlier, the papers, there's 3 2-hour papers which are sat at the end of year 13. These are made up of multiple choice questions. There won't be many of those. Short answer questions, so ranging from 2 marks to 8 marks generally. And then extended writing questions. So there are essays. These are 16 marks, roughly, and very roughly 2 sides of A4 generally. We do a lot of practice. We will train you on how to do that. But if, you know, the reason I like to bring this in is because if essay writing isn't your thing, there are essays, and you need to be aware of that. But we will train you, we will have lots of practice, and it's different to the sorts of essays that you'll be used to writing in English, for example. These are much more scientific essays where, you know, it doesn't need any embellishment. You get straight to the point. All right, so we will train you on how to do that. You can see there in the top right corner, I've got AO1, AO2 and AO3. These are our assessment objectives, and they essentially are where the marks come from. So again, we teach you the exam technique, and we teach you how to dissect a question so that you can answer it as fully as possible using those assessment objectives. And we will do lots of practice on what that means as well in September. So what do you need for A-level psychology? You need grade 6s in maths, English and science GCSEs. I think that's already in the booklet you would have been given. But what we do require from you is commitment. All right, it is not an easy subject. There's a lot of work. There's a set way that we like things done with prep work and with homework, which we will go through in September. But you need to work independently. You need to be committed to the subject. You will get more out of it. All right, so the more you put in, the deeper your understanding will be, and the more that you will enjoy the subject, because you will understand more and be able to make those synoptic links quicker. And the great thing about psychology that most students really enjoy is the application to everyday life and behaviour. So there's a lot to take from it, but you will have a lot of skills to learn, such as critically evaluating research, and applying your knowledge to scenarios. Again, we'll take you through all that, but it's just to be aware, we do expect our students to be fully committed to the subject and to follow what we say. So you might be thinking, all right, if I do psychology, what can I actually do with this? And the answer is most things, all right, because it will help with wherever you work with people. All right, you will have a better understanding of why they might have behaved like that, or are they having that sort of thought, or could it be this? Not that you're going to go around analysing everybody, although you will find yourself applying your knowledge all the time. You won't be able to go around diagnosing people as such, or reading minds. That's another myth. But it will give you a bit more insight into, or maybe they behave that way because, all right, and you can then apply your theories. And it just affects how you perceive people and the wider world as well. So you can see on this slide lots of careers in psychology. A lot of people go into research-based careers, forensic, clinical, and most of these will require further learning, as in a master's degree as well. But we can discuss. Decide that that's the sort of route you want to go down. There's a lot of support that we can give you there to help you make your choices. But it's a very open-ended subject that will help with many aspects of any career where you're dealing with people. So that brings us on to the induction work. So I believe you've been sent a link, and in that link should be the what I've done is why that moved there. See if I can go back. There you go. So I've given you pages and logins for the online textbook. Now this is absolutely crucial, because the online textbook is what you will use for your prep work, which you will do before every single lesson. So you do need to familiarise yourself with logging on. You can't log on your phones because it will just be so minute. Okay, so the software doesn't actually back up on your phones. But I think you can use iPads and obviously laptops and computers. But it really is important you get to grips with that as quickly as possible. And if you have any problems logging on, please just email and we'll try to get you logged on as soon as possible. So what I've done in your booklet that you would have been sent is given you the exact pages that I would like you to read, because you will be having a baseline test, which you'll be doing in all your subjects in September, which will be based on the content that was set in the induction work. Now, the induction work that I've set gives you some of the underpinnings of research methods. It also draws on your knowledge that you should already have from GCSE maths and biology. For example, synaptic transmission is something you probably have already looked at. So, but it's something we look at in quite a bit of depth in biopsychology in paper 2. So I've asked you to do the work based on those components, and like I say, you will be assessed on those in your baseline test in September, which will be the second or third lesson in. All right, so it'll be pretty quick after we start. We'll do an introduction lesson and go through anything you want to, and then it will be a case of here's the baseline test. So please prepare yourselves, follow the work, but it is just about familiarising yourself with those pages and the online textbook. And if you need any guidance on that, again, please just email and we'll be more than happy to help you. So that's pretty much psychology in a nutshell from me. Obviously, when you do come in September, you know, I will go through things in a lot more depth, and we can obviously have a chat about what the 2 years look like and everything in a lot more detail. But for now, you know, without overloading you, that's kind of what you can expect. We will have an introduction lesson on your first lesson in September, and I really look forward to welcoming you to psychology. So if you have any questions, feel free to, I don't know if you can unmute yourself. So if you can do that, or you can put comments in the chat, and I will have a look there. Or you can feel free to email me on the email address at the bottom of the slide. So thank you for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you in September. I'll leave this running for a few minutes in case anyone does have any questions they want to put in the comment box. Okay, well, if you do have any questions, feel free to email. Take care. Bye.